Folks, I am in New York City, the city that never sleeps, and it makes sense because it is about 10 p.m. at night, but I have breaking news. Worlds have collided here in New York City. You guys know I'm here for Ring 3, Edgar Berlanga, Hamza Shiraz, Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda, but in the same city on the same weekend, there's an event going on with Netflix and MVP, Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor. And tonight, like I said, worlds collided because the two head honchos of those companies, known to not be the best of friends before, just met. I'm talking His Excellency Turki Alalshikh and Jake Paul. They just met here in the city of New York, and the beef is potentially squashed. I have no idea what's going on, but let's break it down anyway. What just happened? Turki Alalshikh and Jake Paul, worlds collide, meeting of the Dons in New York. What does it mean? The breakdown. Let's go. So, like I said, this picture just popped up minutes ago on Turki Alalshikh's Instagram. It's him and Jake Paul, and you know this photo was from today because Turki was at the FIFA Club World Cup watching PSG absolutely destroy Real Madrid. My goodness, that was a shellacking. And Jake Paul was at the press conference for Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, both in the same fits they were wearing earlier today. And again, this was posted, like I said, about an hour ago. It's also liked by Most Valuable Promotions. The Ring magazine has now posted it on their social channels. This seems to be, again, a meeting of the two, I would say, biggest, most powerful people in boxing right now. Jake Paul, obviously, is one of the faces of boxing beside Canelo, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, and so forth. But Turki Alalshikh in the Ring magazine has revolutionized boxing in the last couple of years and has taken over the sport and has brought the big fights back to boxing. His Excellency has done insane things for this sport in the last 2 years. And on the other side, Jake has done insane things for the women's side of the sport in the last couple of years. It's been incredible to see both ways, but they have kept themselves very distant, to say the least, while doing that. Running parallel, not perpendicular. And then, listen, there's been some mutual animosity from both sides. I think everybody knows that at this point. But tonight may have just squashed all of that. I don't think you guys realize how important this could be. Number one, the two biggest power players in boxing right now converging, potentially squashing the beef and working together moving forward. Jake has mentioned he wants big-name fights in 2025 and 2026. Turki Alalshikh has been giving the fans the fights they want to see since he stepped into boxing. And the only thing that's separated them really has just been the fact that they're both so competitive, the fact that they both want to be number one in the sport, and maybe, you know, where Jake started in boxing with the influencer boxing side and not being taken as seriously as a professional boxer, but that's changed, or at least it's changing, especially with the win over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., whatever you want to say about that win, and Julio's situation apparently outside of the ring as well. You guys know that I think Jake has evolved over the last 5 years exponentially in the sport of boxing, and I think he's done great things for the sport as well, but Turki Alalshikh obviously being very skeptical in his own right. To be fair, he wants to protect the sport. He's a massive fan of the sport. I think all of us can appreciate him stepping out and saying, I want to make sure I'm putting on the most serious, fan-friendly, championship-level bouts and the fights that are going to make future champions in the sport of boxing. So I can understand his hesitation on accepting Jake Paul into the boxing scene or accepting Jake Paul's career as one that's legitimate or serious. But tonight, that may have changed. And honestly, if you know me, if you know this channel, I think it is for the best. It is so much better in the sport of boxing. I don't want to jump the gun here, okay? Because I don't know. It was just a picture on Instagram of the two of them meeting. But there's been a lot of pictures of a first introduction between Turki and Eddie Hearn, Turki and Dana White, Turki and Canelo Alvarez, Turki and David Benavidez, Turki and name the fighter. And as soon as they have that meeting, things start clicking. Business starts booming. Things start to come together. And again, I don't want to jump the gun because this could just be a picture. It could just be that. And I could just be getting very giddy and excited because I can see how this would help the sport of boxing. I could see what potential this meeting of the minds has, and I genuinely think if this is a little taste of the beef being squashed, of mending fences, of two people coming together to make boxing better in some way, I genuinely think it's so much better than them being apart. I believe that 1,000%. I believe that both Jake and Turki are massive in their own rights, and will take the sport of boxing to new heights regardless. But if this is any indicator, and we're getting Turki and Jake working together in some fashion, boxing is truly going to go to a different level. I'm telling you guys, you may not believe me, you may think I'm just embellishing or whatever. Ring Magazine affiliation on my part aside, just look at this logically and ask yourself, is it better or worse for boxing when two people that care about the sport so much are trying to work in tandem to put on big fights? The answer is it is so much better. Both guys have been, again, on the other side of the aisle, there's been animosity there, but that's not the case, at least hopefully not, with this picture being out there. So let's talk about realistic options going forward. What does this mean? Because I keep talking about how it can change the sport. Let's talk about the potential for Jake and Turkey to work on a fight where Jake is in the ring, right? Jake has talked about wanting to fight Anthony Joshua, which to me is psychotic, and I think he will genuinely get hurt if he does. I don't want him to do that if he wants to continue boxing, but then again, it's a massive fight, and AJ has nothing lined up. Turkey looking to make big fights for the fans, and Turkey's obviously a massive fan of AJ. Who knows? But let's talk about it this way. Jake just got ranked by the WBA at number 14 in the world. That right there clues me into going, you know what? Turki Alalshikh may see that, start to go, you know, this kid is good for the sport. He is trying to get better, and let's have him on a ring event, or let's have him in Riyadh season. If he's as good as he thinks he is, let's put him on a card and test it. And you know what? I say absolutely, because Jake has continually described wanting to be the best in the world, wanting to be a world champion, and now he's got a ranking. So that means that you now have the responsibility of fighting people that are deserving of the number 14 or 15, whatever you want to put him at in the top 15 ranking, that are deserving of that level of opponent. So maybe Turkey says, you know what? You think you're as good as a top 15 fighter? Let's put it to the test. I love it. How about the options for Jake and Canelo? Let's not forget that fight was, in the words of Jake Paul, at the 1 yard line. Almost a done deal. And Turki Alalshikh pulled the Don move and got Canelo over to Ring Magazine and got him over for Canelo Crawford. We know the deal. Can that fight potentially happen? Could that be something Turkey's setting up for his next one after Crawford? So there's 3 options right there that I just gave you. And that's just off the top of my head of what potentially, again, I'm going into the deep end here and really trying to speculate. None of this is anything I know. I have zero idea what this picture means, what the meeting they had meant, if it was even a meeting, if it was a, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, and goodbye, or hey, let's sit down and really talk about things and see why we are at odds or why there is some animosity. Can we fix it? Can we make the sport better being together than apart? All that I don't know. I'm just giving you some baseless speculation because damn if I don't love when boxing comes together. You can even talk about Jake and Tommy Fury. Let's not forget that that fight was also a massive money fight in Saudi Arabia. When they did the fight, it was reported at least that they did around 800,000 pay-per-view buys in Saudi Arabia for the first fight, Jake, Tommy Fury. So even before both guys really ascended and both companies ascended in the sport, Jake had already done great business in Saudi Arabia. Maybe Turki Alalshikh's like, you know what, I want that rematch. Bring that back here in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh season, who knows? And then obviously, the one that I have to talk about, even though we have beat this dead horse until it is almost decaying into the ground and has been taken over by the earth itself, we have to talk about Jake Paul KSI. This could be the moment. I have no idea. I don't know anything past what I've seen online right here. But could this be it? Finally, after so many years, after so much back and forth, after so many roadblocks, could this be the thing? Could Turki Alalshikh, His Excellency, be the one man to cut through all the bullshit and finally give us this fight? Couple of qualifiers. KSI is about to have hand surgery. It's going to be a while. So we have some time to cook here. But Turki has taken a similar picture with KSI. They have worked together on Fatal Fury, the video game. They have had KSI potentially in talks to fight Conor McGregor. There is no shortage of assets and connections that Turki Alalshikh has to get that fight done. And if he can get both of them to the table, ladies and gentlemen, that finally may be here. We finally may get, after 7 long years, KSI Jake Paul. So that's even another option here. And we haven't even talked about the potential of the Ring Magazine and MVP working in the women's fighting space. That's a whole nother conversation. Not even to do with Jake himself, but Ring Magazine looking for fighters under the MVP banner, especially on the women's side, to say, hey, we see what you're doing with the sport on that side. What we're doing over here matches closely what you're doing, putting the best against the best in this side of the sport. You're doing the same over there in women's boxing. Why don't we collaborate? That's another massive W for boxing. Again, I can't see anything bad out of a good relationship between the Ring Magazine and Most Valuable Promotions, Turki Alalshikh and Jake Paul. And there's going to be the purists that run into this comment section and say, wait, no, you can't have Jake Paul and Turki working together. We have to preserve the sanctity of the sport. And my question to them would be, what are you talking about? The sanctity of boxing is only relegated by how much people are passionate about the sport. The sanctity of it is people taking it seriously, is reinvesting into it, is building a better boxing for tomorrow. That is what the sanctity of the sport is. As long as you're abiding by the Marcus of Queensberry in the ring and you're making matchups people want to see outside of it, that's all that I think the sanctity of boxing deserves. The best fighting the best, matchups that are marquee. People want to tune into the sport, want to reinvest into the sport, want to grow it from the spot it should have been since the 90s that it fell into, that people like Turki Alalshikh are having to pick it up and invest money into it without even turning profits at some points. Jake doing the same thing with MVP. I don't see a bad scenario here. All right, so breaking. As I'm recording this, there's already an update. This is, again, I think going to be one of the craziest stories in boxing this year, whatever comes out of it. And the reason I say that is because not only do we have the picture from Turki Alalshikh, obviously standing with Jake, they're both throwing the fist up. They're working together, folks. I mean, there's no way to deny it now. I was going speculation. I'm saying it because Jake is essentially saying it. He's on Twitter and is now said, my/MVP's goals has always, I think he meant to say have, always been to disrupt and grow boxing. And Turki has done that in massive ways. Collaborating only helps ensure boxing for women and men continues to grow and regain its place as the biggest sport in the world. Boom! This is what I told you. This is why it's great. This is why it's going to be a massive, massive year for boxing in the latter half of 2025 and 2026, or as long as this partnership continues to grow. Because they are two of the most powerful men in the sport, on the men's and women's side, collaborating together. Notice the verbiage of that tweet. He says that they have been disruptors at MVP, and they absolutely have been. They've come in and shocked the boxing world. Same with Turki Alalshikh. Come in and taken his place at the head of boxing, changed the sport, revolutionized the sport, put on matchups that people want to see. They've both done that, but Jake didn't just say MVP. Jake didn't just say women's boxing, men's boxing. Jake said my/MVP's goals. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be, I think, again, just my opinion, just one tweet, just one picture. But if I'm right, come back here and pat me on the back, because quite frankly, these guns are too big for my hands to get across the backside. This, if it happens, and if this is real, and if this ends up being something more than just, hey, you know, we appreciate what you're doing on your side, we're doing our thing over here, but there's no beef. If this is a collaboration, I think it's going to be Turki Alalshikh and the Ring Magazine looking to, in some ways, involve women's boxing on their cards. And, again, Jake is looking for massive fights in the latter part of 2025 and 2026. If I'm going to rank them, I would say this could be a potential Jake Paul list of names he wants that Turki can help out with. Maybe it's Canelo Alvarez because he is signed with the Ring in Turki. Maybe it's Anthony Joshua. Sounds crazy, I know, but we've talked about it. Tommy Fury, they've done good business. We talked about that. And KSI. That fight just needs to happen 7 years later. So the update is, yeah, Jake and Turki, in my opinion, are going to be collaborating. This is not just a meeting to me. This is not just, hey, you know, let's squash the beef. I think it is those things, but I think more than that, we are now going to get a combination of the mega powers. That's right. Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage. That is what we're seeing here. Turki Alalshikh, Jake Paul taking over boxing. I have a feeling this is going to be massive in the last part of this year and really is going to take effect in 2026. I don't even know what I'm even saying. I'm telling you what I think about the situation, about what potentially could happen. The question I'll leave you with is, what does it mean? Is it just a meeting? Is it Turki and Jake cooking up a fight for Jake? Is it Turki and Jake cooking up a collaboration between Ring Magazine and Most Valuable Promotions? Who knows? I certainly don't. Comment below what you think, and the only way I can end this video is genuinely the only thing that we can do at this point is we have no answers. I have no idea what's going to happen, but for Turki Alalshikh and Jake Paul to be meeting, I know it's a big thing, and as far as what comes out of it, I don't have those answers, so guess we'll find out.